Hi, Dharma friends. It's so nice to see all of you. Would you please put your hands together and join me in Gasho while I read a passage from the Tanisho. Concerning the Nembutsu, no working is true working, for it is beyond description, explanation, and conceptual understanding. Thus, the master stated. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. Well, it's wonderful to see all of you. This is Labor Day weekend, so I hope you're enjoying it. For most of you, you probably got a day off of work, and our students who are in school they don't have to go to school on Monday. So I hope you're taking this opportunity to get some rest and recover from all the craziness that's going on in our world. As you know, Labor Day is a holiday that's really meant to give people a moment of rest from working really hard. And working hard is something that's part of the American way. You know, when you go to school, your parents always tell you, make sure you work hard, get good grades so that, you can go to a good college or get a good job. Those things are important. And when you enter the workforce, everyone tells you, make sure you work really hard so you can get promotions and move up the chain of command and get more responsibilities, but also more income, to support your family. Those are all things that are incredibly important. And it is the American way. But we work really hard, don't we? And sometimes we do need to take a break. And even during these uncertain times, it can be challenging to work. So myself, I work full time, and up until COVID-19 hit, I worked in an office environment. And once it hit, I had to switch over and to work remotely. And I got to tell you, it's a real challenge sometimes to interact with people over Zoom or Teams meetings. But we've learned how to do it. But it can still just be really tough work. And for those of you who work remotely, you may find that you're putting in even extra hours that you normally wouldn't do because, you're putting in time at home working when you would normally be commuting to and from an office. My wife is a teacher, so she also works from home with her kindergarten class and teaches her students, using Zoom. And that's really tough and challenging work. Just as hard, I think, it is on the students and the parents who sit there and try to support their kids at home. So these are definitely tough times, and it's important to get a break once in a while, isn't it? So anyway, I hope you're getting some rest. The passage I shared with all of you just a couple of minutes ago is from a section of Jodo Shinshu teachings known as the Tanisho. And the Tanisho, it was written by a follower of our founder Shinran Shonin, who knew him personally. And after Shinran passed away, this follower, his name is Yuyen, he realized that there were people that were getting confused by some of the teachings, and he wanted to clarify them for people using Shinran's words. So that's why at the very end of the passage that I read, he said, thus the master stated, letting people know that those words actually did come from Shinran Shonin. And the passage I read emphasized this notion of no working is true working. No working is true working. What does that mean? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. But before I do, let's think about this. So when you're growing up and you're going to school, you get report cards, right? I got lots of report cards growing up, some of them good, some of them not so good, but I got report cards. And I continued to get those all the way through high school. You get to college, though, then you just get grades from your professors, not so much report cards. But while you're growing up, the report cards say how well you're doing progressing. Are you getting better at learning, and how is your behavior? You get along with others, those sorts of things, because they're all important to becoming a well-rounded young adult by the time you leave high school. So you leave high school, you may enter the workforce or the military or go off to college. But in any case, you usually end up having a job at some point in time. And once you start your job, you get something called performance reviews, where people sit there and look, hey, how well is so-and-so doing with their job? Do they get it? Do we need to give them extra training? Or perhaps maybe they're not doing so good at all and we need to move them on, whatever that might be. And in the corporate world, typically you don't get A's, B's, or C grades. You don't get satisfactory grades or failing grades. You get something called either like needs improvement, so you can get better, or meets, which means like, okay, you're doing the job that we asked you to do. That's good. Or you get like exceeds, something along those lines, and it's usually really hard to get exceeds. It's rare people get needs improvement, right? Because they hired you for your skill set, but it does happen. So usually most people fall in the middle of meets. And that's not a bad thing, right? It means that you can do your job. So we get graded on those things. But what if? What if we had to have a report card, though, for our spiritual development? What would that be like? So, as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, it's our practice, if you can even call it a practice, to say Namo Amida Butsu. And that is actually the name of Amida Buddha, who created all the conditions necessary for us to become enlightened ourselves once we pass away from this world. So Namo Amida Butsu, or reciting the Buddha's name, is the closest thing that Jodo Shinshu Buddhists have as a practice. So what does that mean for us the rest of the time? Are we supposed to just be like, oh, okay, we say Namo Amida Butsu and everything's fine, and we go about our lives and, do whatever? Is that okay? Do we have to work really hard to be, good human beings? Do we have to work really hard to be perfect and practice, things like the Eightfold Path or the Six Paramitas so that we can get closer to enlightenment? Do we need to do those things? So what if we had a report card for our behavior in this life? What would it might look like? So let me show you something. Can you see this okay? It's got a place for a name and a review period and some different standards, right? And then whether or not you do these things all the time. And at the very bottom, there's a place for a final grade. So maybe I'll show you a picture of this real quick. It might be easier than trying to see it on screen. So bear with me for just a moment while I pull up that picture for you. So could you see it better? What do you think? The standards, whether you're judging other people or blaming other people for your mistakes, or you get impatient or you worry, those are all things that are part of being a human being. We all feel that way sometimes, don't we? Can't really escape them. It's just part of who we are. And so what if we were judged on those things? What would happen? Would we pass the test and be able to go to Amida's Pure Land? Well, let me circle back to the passage I shared at the very beginning. So I shared how no working is true working. What does that mean? Well, it says it's beyond our calculation. It essentially means that Amida Buddha's vow to ensure that we become enlightened beings, his promise to make sure that all the conditions are met for our eventual enlightenment, those have already been taken care of. And Amida's vow to save all beings to become enlightened themselves is a promise that you are fine just as you are. Even if you struggle in this life and you make mistakes and you're not perfect, that is what Amida's vow is for. It's for you. It's for me. It's for all of us. Because we're imperfect is why we are saved by Amida. Because we are imperfect, that is why we are born in the Pure Land and become Buddhas. There is no working that we need to do. Once we try to start working and measure ourselves, like, oh my gosh, am I worthy? Do I have to say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, with the most sincerity? We're calculating at that point. We're thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to be really sincere. Or maybe I have to say it a lot. Maybe I have to say, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Try to say it as many times as I can during the day, because maybe I'll hit that magic number. And that'll lead me to the Pure Land. Nothing could be more wrong, because Amida Buddha has already created the conditions. When we say Namo Amida Butsu, it really is an act of gratitude. Just saying, thank you, because we're fine just as we are. So let's take a look at a filled out report card for a Nembutsu follower. So I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. What do you think of that one? It shows that the person's genuinely a regular human being who does worry and sometimes blames others and gets impatient and gets angry and is ignorant all the time. In fact, we're so ignorant as human beings, we're even ignorant of our own ignorance, right? It's just part of being human. But did you see the grade at the bottom? It was an A plus. A for Amida. And plus because you passed. You're going to the Pure Land. So when you pass away from this life, you are born in the Pure Land and become a Buddha, thus fulfilling Amida's vow. I want to share one other thing with you about no working is true working. So this onenju that I am using today was a gift from another minister to me when I was just starting on this path. And it came in this beautiful box. So this onenju actually came from Japan, but inside the box, this minister wrote something to me. Imperfect, right? But it says, no working is true working. So this is something I constantly try to remind myself when I'm second guessing. Am I worthy of Amida's saving grace? Am I worthy of being born in the Pure Land? And then I have to remind myself that there's nothing I need to do because it's already been settled. And I hope you feel that way too. So enjoy this Labor Day weekend. Try to take a break from work. And don't be too hard on yourself as you continue through this life. And always remember, no working is true working. Will you please put your hands together one last time and join me in Gasho? Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Naman Butsu. Naman Butsu. Naman Butsu. Naman Butsu. I'll see you all next time, and if you're enjoying these Dharma messages that are coming from the Arizona Buddhist Temple, I invite you to visit our website, azbuddhisttemple.org, and consider perhaps making a small donation on the link that's there. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.